We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and today we have the developer of Bikram Greens, Dr. Don Hayes, in studio. And Don Hayes has a long track record in wellness in the United States. And Don Hayes, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thanks, Josh. It's a delight to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to have you here today. So you are a graduate chiropractor. What is your educational background?
Well, undergraduate at University of Oregon, then I went on for my four-year degree at a chiropractic college in Portland called Western States. Mm-hmm. I've spent 35 years in chiropractic. I've been licensed for 35 years. And 20 plus years of that I was in private practice. A big fan of nutrition. I mean, we got taught a lot of nutrition in chiropractic college, unlike allopathic physicians.
Mm-hmm.
But so I had a lot of passion and like for it. But a big thing happened to me about my 22nd year. I had the opportunity to become a partner, not actually work with, but a partner with the owner and founder of the largest nutrition company in the world at that time that only made products for healthcare providers.
Mm-hmm.
They had over 400 products. They were strictly in that market. So I spent 7 years in that position as a partner with them.
What company was that?
The company was called Metagenics.
Metagenics, great company.
Yeah, a very well-known company. And the founder of that company and I were partners. And I wasn't a partner with Metagenics, but another company that did all the training for Metagenics. But I had firsthand knowledge there. Got a lot of experience that you would not normally get. I'm working with their PhDs, working with their formulators, raw material buyers. Knowing how to make products, more importantly, how not to make products. And
Sure.
It was quite an educational process for me.
Sure. And so this product you have a green product and a fruit product. Is that correct?
Well, actually, we have two Bikram Balance Original and Bikram Balance Berry. Both of them are a fruit and vegetable product.
Mm-hmm.
So not one's fruit and one's vegetable. They're both a fruit and vegetable product. We just happen to have two flavors of it. So we have the original, and then we have a berry. The berry is a slightly different formula. It's not using any kind of a dye to make it that, but it's a slightly different formula that favors a little more berry. Both of them, though, have greens and berries and fruits and vegetables in both of them. So they're both very potent.
So you've hooked up with Bikram Choudhury, who is arguably the most well-known yoga, I'll use the word teacher, he's more than that, but yoga teacher in the world, and of course works with his wife Rajashri. So how did you hook up with Bikram Choudhury?
Well, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, obviously, to know a little bit about Bikram Balance, it does help to know a little bit about Bikram Choudhury. As you said, he's the oldest living guru in the world. And
well, no, he's not the oldest. No, he wouldn't want to be considered the oldest.
Well,
no,
he probably wouldn't want to be considered that, but in his books he writes that. So I will use what I've read and what and in my meetings with him.
Well, actually, BKS Iyengar is, I think, 94.
Okay.
So Bikram's only 61, 62. He can't be much older than that.
Yeah, you're right. He's in his early to mid 60s. Yeah. But he started yoga when he was 3.
Right.
He was 2-time Indian champion. When he brought yoga to the United States, as he tells it, in the mid 70s,
right.
He said no one knew the name. I mean, it was virtually hardly known. Today, everyone does know something about yoga. They at least know the name. And what they do know about yoga, and I think from reading things and studying things, Bikram is very responsible for most of that, and certainly in the United States. And what they at least do know about yoga, it has a connotation about wellness, health, vitality, what they know about yoga itself.
Right.
If you Google yoga, you'll find Bikram. And so really Bikram is synonymous with wellness, vitality, flexibility, health, as well as yoga. So it was an interesting opportunity to meet him. He had big needs. if you've never done a Bikram yoga class, and I have, it's very demanding. I mean, it's 90 minutes long. It's in a 105-degree heated studio. I did it with Bikram teaching, 500 students. I literally saw him help out 20 to 30 people.
Right.
Exhaustion, fatigue, nosebleeds. Very young, physically fit people that weren't nutritionally prepared for that kind of demand. And he really needed a product, he felt, that would first help his students be able to endure his and also improve the vitality of people that take it everywhere.
Right. So that's really a good endorsement, because Bikram Choudhury is a very careful fellow. And a lot of people want to work with Bikram Choudhury. So obviously, if he wanted to work with you, Don, then he must have felt you had something to bring to the table.
Well, thank you. We felt so too. I mean, he had a very high statement that he uses in everything he does, apparently, in his life. He says if it's 99% right, it's 100% wrong. So we had our marching orders. But what I think helped us a great deal is that I left my partnership with the largest nutrition company, and I started to formulate my own product, 2 or 3 products, again for the healthcare market. And in that process, we have developed in the last 10 years the largest nutritional powder electrolyte nutrient replacement product for healthcare providers for 10 years. We're the largest in that channel. We literally have thousands of doctors that recommend it to tens of thousands of patients, millions of servings. It's time tested and proven, and Bikram and his team knew that, and I think that helped a great deal for him to have confidence to turn to us, because we don't private label our product. We make it. We have made it for 10 years, highest product we can for that channel. So we took on the challenge knowing full well we should be able, and we were able to deliver the product.
Let me just rephrase that once again. So this is not a private label like Bob's Vitamins. This is these are supplements that you manufacture in your own laboratory.
This is something we manufacture. I mean, I don't own the facility, but it's in our own facility, has for all 10 years. We have the formula. It's a facility made in the United States, and for all 10 years, yes. No, this is not a private label. This is our formula, our product, and every can that's ever been made of our medical doctor market product, and certainly Bikram Balance, is made by us.
All righty. So this is important to establish. Now, tell me about the 2 products.
Okay. Obviously, we have 2, and as you see here, this is Bikram Balance Original, Bikram Balance Berry. As you look at the can, this is a 30-day supply. There's a scoop in here, Josh, 30 servings. If you take it once a day, as it's designed, it's very simple. You take a simple shaker cup like this, snap on it. Doesn't require a blender. 6 to 8 ounces of water, a scoop, snap on the lid, shake, and drink. What you're drinking now in that serving, you're drinking the contents is 49 different superfoods. I mean, we have 49 different fruits and vegetables that make up Bikram Balance. One of the most important things, I mean, you hear all the time about various electrolyte replacement drinks. The truth is, if you check most of those out there, Josh, you'll find that they're not much more than sugar water. They throw in a little bit of alkaline minerals, maybe to make it look a little better, but that's what it is. And the body needs so much more than a couple alkaline minerals. I mean, it's so acidic and it's there. So when you're able to draw on 49 different superfoods, and the critical thing is to sweeten it properly. We use stevia in our Bikram Balance Original. We use Lohan in our Bikram Balance Berry. Both of those are expensive, calorie-free, alkaline-type herbs. They don't trigger blood sugar.
So stevia does not adversely affect blood sugar.
It does not, and neither does Lohan. It does not, and that's critical because, you take an electrolyte replacement drink to get a glucose hit to the brain. All foods are broken down into glucose. That's what the brain needs. Well, you do it at a very expense because you're going to trigger insulin, you're going to trigger blood sugar, which is a step forward and 3 steps backwards. You'll get the same effect with Bikram Balance. You'll get very quickly, when it's a powder in fluid and you're drinking it, you're going to get glucose very quickly into the bloodstream. But guess what? It won't trigger blood sugar. It doesn't trigger insulin, so it doesn't have these negative effects. So you can get this, and a lot of people just don't understand where electrolytes come from. They come from fruits and vegetables.
All righty. And on the fruits and vegetables you have, what are some of the highlights that you've added to the formulation that you think are terribly important? Well,
without a doubt, in all cases, anything that's the deep darkest greens and the deep darkest fruits as well. that. And you have the various dark greens, chlorella, in the world to the antioxidant need. It's important to let you know that one scoop, I mean, our federal government has told us for years that 9 servings. They're not in the business of making money selling fruits and vegetables. They know the research. They know the science. Our bodies are very acidic from our lifestyles and what we eat.
Right.
And so 7 to 9 servings is what they recommend. The truth is they probably need twice that. But the sad news is the average American consumes 1. Kids less than that. They think French fries is a vitamin or a vegetable.
Right, it's unfortunate. Yes.
But when you take a scoop of Bikram Balance in water, you get the antioxidant protection equivalent to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables. So it's extremely potent form of that, and it's all the ingredients, the 49 different superfoods that are the dark greens and the brightly colored fruits and vegetables combined that you could never get, I think, probably in your diet that you can get in a scoop of Bikram Balance.
And so the suggested use is a scoop in 6 or 8 ounces of water with breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Well, the ideal thing is, as we teach in the healthcare market, and it's the same for consumers using Bikram Balance, you're most acidic when you first wake up in the morning.
Okay.
I mean, the body's been processing acid all night long. It's doing its best from the day before, maybe the week before to do that. You're the most acidic when you first wake up. Unfortunately, in our society, our acidic lifestyles and diet, we add to it immediately. Mm-hmm. So what we recommend is that within 30 minutes of getting up, get the shaker cup out, get a 6 to 8 ounces of water, take a scoop of Bikram Balance. Right then, that's the ideal time.
Right.
Another good time, obviously, if you choose to, would be post-workout.
Okay.
That would be another good possibility.
Okay, very good. And children can also use it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, in fact, mothers like the Bikram Balance berry. I mean, it does have a bit of a red color in water. Can be frozen into popsicles. Doesn't make the world's best,
okay.
But
that's very nice.
It's a very nice thing. It's sippy cups. There's no reason not. We are struggling to get 15 servings of fruits and vegetables in adults. Children, it doesn't happen. So certainly it can be used for all age groups.
And is this used on a daily basis?
Absolutely. I mean, you'll start. We have a little motto: you taste the difference. You'll find that this product tastes very good in water. I mean, it really does. I mean, it takes a real art for someone to take stevia and Lohan and make it taste well. I mean, and it does. Compliance is great because of the taste in water, and we hope that you'll just use water. We don't want to add it to juice or milk, water. So taste the difference first, then feel the difference, because when you start to alkalize the body, you'll start to feel it right away. The body will reward you very quickly in increased energy, a little decreased irritation, inflammation. But what most people are looking for from a product like this, because we're competing head to head with electrolyte drinks and these energy drinks that are so damaging really to the body, that you will feel an energy pick me up when you alkalize. And so you take it on a daily basis. You take it all the time, frankly.
And so this can be taken not necessarily with a meal, but between meals, before a workout. It doesn't. You get any time at all.
Any time at all, and the more water you put it in, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I'll put mine in a quart of water, half gallon of water, because it doesn't matter how it tastes to me. I just want the nutrient benefit in there. So first thing in the morning is the ideal, perfect time. But pre-workout, post-workout, if you're not an exercise person, I got to make it real clear here. This is not just for the demands of a Bikram yoga class of 90 minutes, 105 degrees.
Right.
Weekend warriors, or if you don't exercise at all, if you are feeling tired, inflamed, and out of shape, it's typically a byproduct of acidity.
Okay.
And so start to alkalize with a product like this, and I think you'll have great returns.
All right. And Don, this can be used at... Oh, we're going to take a short break here for a moment. Okay, let us take a short break. We're speaking with Don Hayes, the formulator for this Bikram Balance green drinks, and you're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. We'll be right back with Don after these important messages.
Hey, are you spending your time or are you wasting your time? Well, kill some time hanging out with Michael Collier, Brooks Jackson, and the whole crew at the Michael Collier Morning Show. I Get Up Late. That's every Tuesday, 3 until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you don't know what that is, you better get on the internet and look it up. And while you're there, go to latalklive.com and check me out.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey, I'm Kimberly Russell, a.k.a. K. Russ.
And I'm Julie Richmond, also known as J. Rich, inviting you to join us every Thursday, 12 noon Pacific, for our all-new show, Wova Lounge.
Join us as we discuss thought-provoking topics, have one-on-one interviews, and showcase women
and men
doing their thing. So don't forget to tune in to Wova Lounge every Thursday, 12 noon Pacific.
Exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This right here is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. We are grown and sexy.
Hey everybody, it's Miss R&B, and I'm inviting you to come and hang with me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. PST for Perspectives Corner with Rona Rowe Bennett on America Talk Live. Hear and see interviews and live performances from some of our favorite celebrities and personalities in entertainment, sports, business, and the wellness industries. We're getting lifted and we're going deep, talking about life and empowering the champion in us all. See you there.
We're back. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. Our guest is Don Hayes, the developer of the Bikram Balance, I'll use the word green drinks, but actually vegetable and fruit drinks, which are very good. And before we start the interview, I would like to give a little shout out to my friends Merrill, Cheryl, and Maritza, who are senior teachers of Bikram from the Florida School. I'd like to say hello. And Don, thanks for being back as our guest.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Sure. And you were saying that when you met Bikram, he is very successful and that a lot of people who were trying to work with him, and you are the first nutritional product he's picked in his more than 40 or so years as a teacher.
Absolutely. He made it very clear. He was quite concerned. He's very proud of his name, as he should be. He's earned everything that he has gotten, he says. He worked the hard way, and he still does it. I mean, to see him work a class of 500 students,
right.
You realize that he's not about to quit.
No.
But he made it clear that he's not put his name on a nutritional product for more than 50 years,
right.
50 years of his history. So we were very proud and honored, but we knew we had a real mandate here. He was nervous. He told me so. But after the product got out and it got beta tested in a number of his studios in Canada and Europe, the calls came in like crazy of how it's working and how it's helping students, and he was smiling from ear to ear. So he's very, very thrilled and excited to have a product with his name on it that is this effective.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And Bikram has schools all over the United States and the world.
All over the world. I was told somewhere 6,000 to 7,000 studios.
Wow.
Right now he has a teacher training in LAX. He does this twice a year, graduates 1,000 teachers a year. I've been over there. The show is unbelievable. These people are so excited about what they're going to take to the world, the health, the message, and they're embracing Bikram Balance tremendously because they too are taking some kind of an electrolyte drink. These are the people I saw carry out drinking these energy drinks. That's not what the body needs. The body needs a full complement of nutrients.
And so So you are a graduate and working chiropractor.
Yes.
And you have been supplements for how?
About 12 years. If you take me back to the 7 years as a partner with the man that founded the largest nutrition company in healthcare, and add those 7 years.
You want to mention that name, just a perspective?
I don't know that I should, necessarily, but it's a big name, and we mentioned it earlier in the show, the company name.
Yes.
But at any rate, that was my education there. It was a great honor to work with them. They're still a fine company. But when I went to make my own products, I wanted to make a product that would do the most good for the most people in the simplest, easiest amount of time. That led me down the path of the 10 years with the other product line. So it was a natural fit for me with Bikram because I knew exactly what we were delivering in the healthcare market. People with inflammation that want to reduce it, people with fatigue that didn't, people that were eating. The same fruit and vegetable requirement is for all of us, whether you exercise or not. It was a challenge that I knew we could do. So I had a number. It's kind of a twisted route that I got there, having practiced for 20 plus years, but it's one that I'm very excited more about the nutrition than ever.
And when a person uses the Bikram Balance products, would they see, and it's hard to be as broad, but what would they see?
Well, that's a great question because, I get asked that question in conjunction with the name. Obviously, the Bikram name is obvious, but balance. In medical physiology, something that all healthcare providers are taught for 4 years, whether you're an allopathic physician, chiropractor, acupuncturist, we carry a physiology book under our arm for 4 years. The leader in that is a guy named Arthur Guyton. Arthur Guyton is an MD from Harvard, Guyton's Medical Physiology, and he has a chapter in there dedicated to acid-alkaline balance. Now, what's interesting is his professor at Harvard that taught physiology was a guy named Walter Cannon, also an MD. Cannon in 1902 coined the phrase homeostasis. And anybody in healthcare knows that homeostasis means balance. And so that amongst other balances, acid-alkaline is very important. So to get to your question, most of us with our lifestyle and our diet are over-acidic. Everything we eat in the food chain, with the exception of fruits and vegetables, maybe a few nuts and seeds, but is acid. I mean, it is what it is. Dairy and animal products are very acidic. Yes. Fruits and vegetables are very alkaline. So what you'll start to feel when you give a shot of alkalinity, a scoop of this in water, 15 plus servings of fruits and vegetables, the antioxidant protection, your body rewards you. You start. It's not your imagination. You definitely have energy. You definitely feel less ache and pain. You alkalize. Basic high school chemistry, base neutralizes acid. So we want to cut back on our acid, but we're going to have to supplement our alkalinity, and that's what Bikram Balance will do. A scoop of that in water is the best way to do it, short of you promising to eat 15 to 20 servings each and every day.
Right. And is there anything in particular and why do you have two different mixes? What's the difference?
Well, the reason we did really actually was convenience for people that are taking it on a daily basis, so they can have a slight different flavor. And also, we have two different sweeteners, as I said. Stevia is used for the Bikram Balance Original, and Lohan for the Bikram Balance Berry. And some people actually taste Stevia, and they may want to change to Lohan. They both taste delicious in water. So we just thought it was important, but I think the confusion comes, they think one's a fruit and one's a vegetable. They're both fruit and vegetable. They both have equal amounts in it. They both deliver 15 plus servings of fruits and vegetables in each scoop.
So the stevia is a plant-based sweetener that has a nice taste and does not adversely affect blood sugar. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's considered an herb. It would be like a potato, let's say, or something. It's food-based, and it's extremely popular. I mean, obviously, sugar cartels were not excited about having something so natural out there. It can be 100 times sweeter than sugar that doesn't trigger blood sugar.
Right.
It was even held out of countries like the UK because of big sugar cartels, I was told. But it has now been approved in the UK. It's hard to hold something back like that. In the United States, it was sold as I think in health food stores, you probably know this better than I do, as a fiber. They wouldn't allow it listed as a sweetener.
Right.
But now it's out. It is there. Lohan, much the same way. Much more expensive. I mean, if I were to use fructose or one of the inexpensive sweeteners, for heaven's sakes, in this, it could be a lot cheaper product. but we want the best product, and
sure.
that's what Bikram wanted as well.
And what exactly is Lohan?
Lohan is a fruit, and it does the same. It has the same effect. LO capital HAN doesn't trigger blood sugar. It's another very, very expensive in line of sweeteners, but that's why you'll never find it in these energy drinks. When I see these little bottles of, you buy this to get energy, and people take it all day long, and these other types of things, my goodness, what they're doing to themselves is shocking. Sugar. All for a jolt in the head, but they'll get the jolt the other way. So they won't be using these products. They're too expensive for those kind of drinks.
And also, they might not have the understanding as far as what these products offer.
Clearly, they don't have that, and the consumer really is caught in between, because I know what they want. They're fatigued, they're acidic, they want to do the right thing, and they just get caught up, I think, in the advertising that you can get this energy from this. But I don't think they ever thought that fruits and vegetables. I mean, I have many people come to me and say, is there vitamins in Bikram Balance? And I have to say to them, where do you think vitamins come from? They don't come from laboratories. They come from fruits and vegetables. And, I eat plenty of those. Well, when you pin them down, they eat one or two things. I mean, no one goes to the store and gets 49 different superfoods. So we've got an advantage. A scoop of that is unbelievably nutrient dense. And if you just try this for 30 days, I think you're going to feel the difference, because that's exactly what it is. You'll feel the difference. If you get off of it, your body's going to say, where's it at? And so it's really a product that we're very proud of that can be used for certainly weekend warriors. Bikram's extremely excited for it to be in all of his students, because I'll tell you, he demands a lot out of them. He demands a lot of his teachers, and it's a wonderful, wonderful wellness product.
And where can people obtain the Bikram Balance products?
Well, we're happy to say that as of now, I mean, it's only been out a short period of time. Right now, all the Bikram stores around the world are rallying to carry the product, and they will certainly do that. But we've had a number of major players, food distribution market, already contact us and sign agreements that they want to carry it. And certainly anybody watching your show, Josh, and by the way, I want to thank you for such a great show you put on. I mean, this is a phenomenal thing that you do, every week, and I'm just so honored to be here. But if people would just go to health food stores and ask the owners there, I heard about Bikram Balance. I was on Josh's show. Can you get it?
Right.
That's what allows these distributors to go, we can get it there. Right. So it'll start popping up, I'm quite sure, in mom and pops, small ones, health food stores, and the major places too. But right now, if you want it, you would go to BikramBalance.com. And at BikramBalance.com, you can buy it there until it's more conveniently found in your town.
That sounds real good. You want to take a short break, Nestor? Okay, so my sound man, Ted, we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back with Don Hayes of Bikram Balance after these important messages.
Hi, this is Olden Polynice, retired NBA player, inviting you to join me for my show, The O-Zone, Mondays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am going to be talking about basketball, baseball, hockey, football, you name the sport, we're going to talk about it and dig deep. The O-Zone is where the truth lives. So don't forget to tune into the O-Zone with Olden Polynice, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. That's the O-Zone with Olden Polynice every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Josh Lane. And our guest today, Dr. Don Hayes, who has the Bikram Balance products, a new product that Bikram Chowdhury has decided to endorse, actually, which is remarkable because Bikram has a worldwide audience. He's had enormous success, has enormous clout in the wellness industry, and he's decided this is a great product and is happy to work with Don. So we were just discussing, so there are a number of celebrities who do Bikram yoga. You want to mention some of the new guys?
Well, I've had the opportunity to meeting with Bikram, to get into his inner chamber up there in his headquarters. Right. And, the wall was surrounded with pictures that would just be a who's who. It's just shocking. Now,
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. I know you've said the same thing. You've known him for years. Yeah. And you knew him back when I guess he was Elvis was around. But
well, actually, the story was that Elvis wanted him to give him private classes, and Bikram said, I don't give private classes. So he didn't give Elvis private classes. And I thought that was just a great story, really.
It is a great story. Yeah. I also know Bikram said when it is really old days, he would do one-on-one. He had so small of a office that he had to do one-on-one. Can you imagine one-on-one with Bikram? I cannot imagine that. Yeah, you couldn't get away with a thing there. You can't get away with a thing in 500 people. No. But, we're talking, Bikram's one of those rare people that is known by his first name. Obviously. Right. But there are a number of celebrities the same way that does Bikram yoga. Sting, the singer. Sure. Madonna, we know first name. In this area, Josh, Kobe, we know who that is.
Oh, yes.
Shaq, Kareem, happen to all be Lakers, but we know them by name. Two namers, Lady Gaga. The list goes on and on, and I think they really appreciate what yoga does for them, and more importantly, Bikram yoga. It's demanding. Again, it's not just routine yoga. But he has stories of President Nixon with his phlebitis that he was not able to help, and he was asked to help President Nixon. But he's got a history that's unbelievable. So, he knew what he was lacking, and he's on about it, is that they just couldn't endure 90 minutes at 105 degrees unless they were nutritionally fit.
Right.
And as much as, that was not his expertise, he wanted to add that. So when he came to us, or we came to him, and our peoples got together and we talked, we knew what we had to do. And Bikram Balance, it's now been out long enough. He's getting reports from all over the world. It's in London and Canada. His studios around. They're getting back to him personally, telling him how better they feel, how their students are doing so much better on the product. And again, he's very, very proud. He's a proud man anyway, but he's very proud. He breathed a big sigh of relief. We kind of knew that it was going to do this. I had a 10-year history in the healthcare market, so I was comfortable that we'd be able to do this. Mm-hmm. But now Bikram's more comfortable, and I'm sure there won't be long here, Josh, that we're going to see one or two of these big celebrity names drinking it down just because they do everything Bikram says to do.
Well, sure, because his ideas work. And Don, if people want to buy the Bikram Balance, where can they go again?
Well, again, I would like to encourage everyone listening to your show to ask their local health food stores to carry it. Ask them if they can get Bikram Balance. But in the meantime, you do want it. We want you to get it. BikramBalance.com. If you go to BikramBalance.com, there's a phone number there. You can get on there. You can learn more about it. And you can order right there until it's conveniently in your town. And that's what we'd help to spread the word and get it out there for everyone to know it's there.
That sounds very, very good. That sounds very good. Don Hayes, it's been a pleasure having you on my show today. And those of you who have any additional questions, again, Bikram Balance. And, of course, you can visit Bikram Chowdhury's website, and Bikram Chowdhury's yoga schools or hot yoga are everywhere. And I'm sure that if you live in any kind of decent-sized town, I shouldn't say that really, but you'll find there's a Bikram yoga school near you. And we're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back after these important messages.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.
Meet Betsy. She is 29 years old and lives in Los Angeles. Recently, Betsy sent her father an email that brought tears of joy to his eyes. You see, Betsy suffers from autism, and this was the first email she had ever sent to anyone. Betsy is just one of the many students at Empower Tech, a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles that trains persons living with a broad range of physical, cognitive, and developmental disabilities how to use computers to do the things that so many of us take for granted: email, online banking, research, and entertainment. Through modern assistive technology, instructors at Empower Tech help hundreds of people just like Betsy every year. They teach them the basic skills required to function independently in 21st century society. But with new state budget cuts, all of that could change. Empower Tech needs your help if it's going to continue making a difference here in our community. Please visit www.empowertech.org. That's www.empowertech.org to make a secure, tax-deductible contribution, and to learn more about this important community resource, and to see for yourself what some of the amazing students and teachers do on a daily basis. Betsy and the 1.8 million people living with disabilities in Los Angeles County, thank you for caring enough to show your support.
Hi, I'm Tosh Walker, and I want you to join me every Saturday evening from 5 to 8 p.m. for Cocktails with Tosh Walker, where each week is going to be a big party. Why? Come celebrate with me for the very first lifestyle entertainment sports show. And on my cocktail menu, I have special celebrity guests stopping through, and you never know who might come through, boo. It just might be one of your favorite sports celebrities. From Cocktails with Tosh Walker, the Entertainment Lifestyle Sports Show. Right here every Saturday night, where we're more than just talk. We're Cocktails with Tosh Walker on LATalkLive.com.
Hi, this is John McClure Jr., aka Simply John, and I would like to invite you to join us on GospelRhythms.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our show GospelRhythms.com Talk Live Radio. Join us as we celebrate Christians around the world in all genres of entertainment, as well as highlight interest stories on men and women who are making a difference and impacting their community. So don't forget to tune in to GospelRhythms.com on LA Talk Live. And we're more than just talk. Remember, it's a heaven's party here on earth. So live life. Love God.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. I would also like to thank my sponsor, Mountain Valley Water, who has produced America's premier water since 1871, and they are now sponsoring my show, which I'm very pleased about. Mountain Valley Water, available everywhere. And I think Diane Bucci's on the phone. Is Diane on the phone? Diane?
Yeah.
Diane, hi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very good. I can hear you nice and clearly. Diane, I thank you for being a guest on my show today, the Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. And your book is a rather serious topic. It's about your son, Mikey, who was an autistic child who unfortunately passed away, took his own life. And that's not an easy topic. So may I ask you, tell me the story, please.
Mikey was diagnosed with mild autism when he was 3 years old, and it was changed or upgraded, if you will, to Asperger's syndrome when he was 7. And he actually went on to lead a very productive life. He was very successful. He graduated from high school as the most inspirational student, and he went to college. He was a gunsmith, and he reached all these milestones that we never thought he would achieve. I believe that he could, but when you hear that autism diagnosis, you're immediately confronted with limits on everything. And he got his driver's license, he went to college, got his degree, he got a girlfriend, and he was doing all of these things that, the autism diagnosis seemed to have prohibited him from doing back in the day when he was labeled with that. They've done a lot of research on it now, and there's a lot more information available. But at that time, it was almost like a mental retardation. And I used to be the president of the Colorado Autism Society, and we put out newsletters every other month. And sometimes when I was digging for material, I would just write a funny story about Mikey on the back cover. And, of course, everyone always tells you, oh, you need to collect these into a book. And I did save them. And by the time he was in college, I thought it would be a great book because it was more like an Irma Bombeck type of book.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. It was short, funny stories. Sure. About my, experiences with Mikey. And I put it into a book and started looking for a publisher. And then, much to my horrified surprise, he killed himself. And we were completely shocked because at the point of his life that he did it, it was like at the peak of his life. He was happy and he was successful. And we got the suicide note, and it was obvious from the suicide note that he'd really had a mental breakdown, more like a schizophrenic episode. He was delusional, and it was out of character for him, and he had written a lot of things that he obviously was very confused in his mind. So he had something else going on there that was not typical autism. He obviously had some other problem that it just had never been diagnosed before. But I went ahead and I added on to the book, and so, the first part of it is his life, and it's there's some pain in there, but there's a lot of love and a lot of fun, a lot of, funny stories. And unfortunately, his death. But then shortly after he died, we all started experiencing these strange things happening that we kept saying, well, it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence. But after a point, you feel stupid saying everything is a coincidence because there were some things that happened that you just cannot explain. And it really seemed to feel like Mikey was trying to let us know he was still alive and he was still present in our lives in a spiritual way. And so I added on to that part. So the book is really, it's not a sob story. There's some sad parts in there, some very serious parts, but it's really a celebration of Mikey's life and Mikey's life after life.
All right. So, Diane, for those listeners just tuning in, can you please offer us a definition of autism?
Autism, by definition, is a pervasive developmental disorder, which by pervasive, it means it affects them in every area of their life. It's a social and emotional disorder, which prohibits their ability to have the normal connections that your brain makes with social interaction. Things that just come naturally by nature to us. If someone says hello to you, you feel inclined to say hello back. They don't have those natural reflexes. It's not a natural thing, but they can learn them, and that's the big thing. Mikey really learned how to act very normal. People who met him as an adult would never believe that he was autistic. They thought he was quiet or, maybe a little bit eccentric. But there's so much hope for people with autism and Asperger's syndrome. They can have normal lives, normal relationships, but it's some things that they have to learn. They have to learn to take social cues instead of just knowing them with this innate, natural ability that the rest of us have.
Okay, so Dan, I have another question. So what is the definition of Asperger's syndrome?
Asperger's is essentially Dr. Asperger took a group of very high-functioning autistic people and studied them and said, I don't think they should be diagnosed with the same classification because they're too high-functioning. But, to me, it's really a mild form of autism. They have the same social, issues with having to learn how to deal with social interaction. But there's no limit on intelligence, and there's no limit on intelligence with autism, but with moderate to severe autistic people, they're so inhibited with the other factors that they really have a limit where they can't function in a regular job, where Asperger's, you don't have that limit.
All right, and so my question and by the way, what year was Mikey born?
He was born in 1983
and
diagnosed in 86.
Okay, so when Mikey was born in 83, he was, as far as you and your husband could determine, and the physicians, a completely normal, healthy child.
Yes, he looked normal in every way. He appeared normal for the first, 6 to 9 months. He was a completely normal baby. About shy of a year, I started noticing a lot of sleeping disturbances that my daughter hadn't had. I had a daughter who was, Susie was 14 months older than him, so I had just gone through, the baby stage, and I was looking for him to start doing things that she had started to do, and he wasn't doing them. And he didn't start talking with his first words. By the time he was 18 months old, he had very few words, and he did not use them appropriately. He was basically repeating things that he'd heard over and over again to himself, but he was not using them at appropriate times. So he definitely started, it appeared he had a language deficit.
Okay, so my question now is, Mikey was born completely healthy, normal. You and your husband noticed this, and the physicians noticed he was normal. And then after about a year, there was problems. Do you feel that there was a trigger that pushed Mikey into this problem?
I do not. I really believe that he was born with this disability. I have heard of, some of the immunizations that they give kids can turn an apparently healthy, normal child into an autistic child because of the reaction their body's having to the immunization. I can see things that Mikey did as an infant that were very typical of the autism as far as head nod, the head banging. He did some of those things, not to a severe degree, but he was very repetitive in things like that, even as an infant. So I don't believe that anything, outside triggered his autism. I think he was one that was really born with some kind of a chemical imbalance in his brain.
Because when it comes to autism, people who feel that there could be a link with vaccination and autism feel that it's possible that one of the factors in the problems with autism and vaccination is the use of thimerosal, more commonly called mercury, as preservative, which is then directly injected into the bloodstream of tiny children or 6-year-old children or 25-year-old adults. And in Japan, more than 14 years ago, the Japanese government banned the use of mercury in vaccines, and yet in the United States, they are still being used. And mercury is a toxic nerve poison, so it is possible that in some instances, some of the cases of autism might be triggered by an exposure to the toxic material mercury.
I absolutely agree with that. And I have not seen yet studies done in countries that have banned the use of mercury where has their incident rate of autism declined significantly.
Yes.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yes, declined significantly.
I have not seen that yet.
Yes, they've declined significantly. Now, may I ask, how many children do you have?
I have 2. I have my daughter, Susie, is 29 years old now. Mikey would be 28, but I lost him at 25, so he will forever be 25.
Sure.
But I still have my daughter, and she and I are very close, and she and Mikey were very close.
May I ask, was any type of genetic testing done when Mikey developed autism to check yourself, your husband, your children? Was there any discussion of environmental factors in the home or in the community?
We had looked into every possible thing, and there was just nothing. We didn't have any incidents of it in our family that we knew of. Of course, there's always these great ancestors that you've heard about that had, seemed withdrawn or antisocial, but they didn't have that label. They weren't labeled autistic. So we didn't know if we had any familial, hereditary with that. But I know that the studies they had done at the time were showing that both parents have to be carriers, because it was like the recessive gene model where 1 in 4 kids with the same parents will have that disability. And that was the most up-to-date research at the time. They didn't have any blood testing or anything like that they could do to show us whether we were a carrier. It was just strictly from studying families with
now,
autism.
you're a person. Were you born and raised in Colorado?
I was born in Oklahoma, but I've lived most of my life in Colorado. So I've lived in the mountains, and where the air is supposedly clean and the water's clean.
Actually, I was reading a book about the California Gold Rush. And after the gold rush here in 1849, people were looking for gold in other western states. And by 1851, people were prospecting in Colorado. And in those days, they were using mercury in their pans to precipitate out the gold. And it was thought that even before people lived and settled in Colorado, that the waters of Colorado had been polluted with mercury because of the enormous quantity of mercury used when men were panning for gold.
Wow, that is a news flash for me. That is quite interesting. And
yes.
That's where I've lived most of my life. It's Colorado.
And also in the western states, in Oklahoma, for example, there's a lot of, mining and moving around of earth. And as you know, trailings of toxic material, arsenic, lead, mercury, are oftentimes thrown out. And another problem we have with mercury is the power plants, the coal-fired power plants all over the United States and the world give off large quantities of mercury into the atmosphere. And so while this problem with autism largely did not exist in the 1950s or 60s, it seems to be a much newer problem. And while it's probably a multifactorial problem, that is, no one's exactly sure, is probably more than one origin, but it is thought that the environment, that the exposure to mercury, not only from vaccines, but from other sources, could be one of the factors.
And then probably, I'm sure, there are, structural defects sometimes in the brain that will cause autism. There are different forms of autism, but the prevalent, autism diagnosis, normally they don't see structural defects, so it is something that's chemically going wrong. So the mercury theory definitely falls into that.
Yes. And may I ask, when Mikey was a young boy and then a young man, did you pursue any type of, I'll use the word progressive therapy, to work with Mikey?
I did not after he really got into high school. He was functioning very well, very high functioning, and it was almost like he was just delayed then. He was doing the same thing other kids were doing, but he was, slower than other boys would be, to want a girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. So it seemed like he was doing normal things by that point. It's just that he was slower than the other kids were to do them. So we did not pursue any other forms of therapy. He got to the point where he was tired of going to psychologists. He was tired of going to, the speech therapist when he was little. He felt abnormal. It made him feel badly about himself.
Sure.
And so I always gauged it on how is this doing for Mikey? Is this really helping him, or is it just making me feel like I'm a better parent because I'm dragging him all over town to go to these specialists? And when he seemed like he was, happy, content, functioning very well, doing well in school, then we stopped all the therapy.
And in those days in the 80s, Was there any work done with the Feingold diet and Mikey?
Yes. In fact, I tried him on several different diets. None of them showed any kind of a food allergy, but, I tried everything that I could find at the time. We tried megavitamin therapy. We tried, removing everything from his diet and then introducing foods back in to see if there was any kind of a change. And there wasn't with him. So I don't believe he had any kind of a food allergy. And his behavior was so severe when he was young. It's real hard for me to believe that an allergy could have caused all of those problems too, because most kids that I saw that did have success with those diets, they did not have behavior that it was as severe as Mikey's was.
Mm-hmm. And do me a favor, Diane, please mention the name of the title of the book again.
It's called The Return of Mikey, and it's from Joshua Tree Publishing, and it is available through the Return of Mikey website or through Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com.
And you were just out here in L.A. at the L.A. Book Fair this weekend, were you not?
Yes, I had a blast at the LA Times Festival of Books at USC, and I met a lot of great people, and I had a great time for the weekend. It was wonderful to be enjoying your LA weather out there, or their LA weather.
And may I ask, do any of the autism societies recommend your book or have endorsed your book?
I have not sent it to them to ask them yet. I had been so active with the Autism Society for so many years. Most of our library that we carried was more medical books. Where mine is more of an it's an inspirational, motivational book, but it was not meant to be a medical book. So I have not tried to get them to endorse that. I know as a parent myself, I was always searching for material that could apply to my child medically, at that point. And so I had not tried to seek them out for endorsement.
Now, you said that your son went to school, went to university, and then became a gunsmith. Is that correct?
He was a gunsmith. He was a very talented artist, yes. He loved the gunsmithing because it encompassed woodworking and metal smithing, and he enjoyed all the ballistic, the mathematical concept with the inner workings of the gun. So he handcrafted guns, and they were beautiful. He made some beautiful pieces. He also made jewelry and pottery. So he was very, very creative, very artistic.
Well, these kind of skills that you mentioned he has are obviously someone who's impaired couldn't do this. So your young man, Mikey, must have been pretty healthy at that point to be able to do those occupations.
Yeah. He was. That was a wonderful thing with him. There's a lot of people with autism who have gifts, who have talents like that, but because they're so socially impaired, they just can't use them. They can't hold a job where someone says, "Okay, I need you to fix this gun or make this ring today." They won't do it. Where Mikey obviously was very high functioning, and he could follow direction, and he could do what was expected of him. And so that was wonderful to have him, for his ability to be able to use his gifts, because he was very talented that way.
Well, I tell you, that sounds very interesting. We're chatting with Diane Bucci, the author of her book about her son Mikey, and Diane will be our guest when we come back after these short messages. Please stay tuned.
Hey, this your girl, Paris, straight from the Cousins, and you can join us every Monday at 8 p.m. here live, bringing you some great entertainment for those ears, exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hey, are you spending your time or are you wasting your time? Well, kill some time hanging out with Michael Collier, Brooks Jackson, and the whole crew at the Michael Collier Morning Show. I Get Up Late. That's every Tuesday, 3 until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you don't know what that is, you better get on the internet and look it up. And while you're there, go to latalklive.com and check me out.
No. Hey, it's your girl Claudia Jordan from Reach Around Radio. And you know what? When I go out, I don't drive myself because I'm a big celebrity. And if you want to feel like a big celebrity, I suggest you call First Class Limousine Service. That's right, First Class Limousine Service. Whether it's a birthday party, business event, concert, girls' night out, airport pickup, or man fan night out, I call First Class Limousine, and so should you. The number is 1-800-400-9771. That's 1-800-400-9771. First Class Limousine Service has been servicing the Southern California area since 1985, the same year as Speedy's Benz. Amenities include champagne, full-size wet bar, full stock bar, and much more. Call now. 24-hour limousine customer service is 1-800-400-9771, and tell them Claudia Jordan sent you.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. Our guest is Diane Bucci. Diane, are you there?
I am.
Very good. And Diane, once again, can you give us the name of your book?
The Return of Mikey.
All righty. Now, if this is difficult because we're talking about the suicide of not just some person, but your son, and may I ask, how can you possibly handle that? What do you do?
You know, when it first happens, obviously you are completely in shock, and you're just saying, why, how did this happen? But with Mikey, obviously, we realized what had happened after we read his suicide note. And you just go on 1 minute at a time. I still had another child there, and she needed her mom. She just lost her only sibling. And that's what I really tried to concentrate on. I mean, this sounds horrible, but at least I had another child. She lost her only sibling. And that's a very different loss that people don't seem to get. Your sibling is your partner in life. They can never divorce you. They can't break up with you. The parents are supposed to die before you. So I really kind of threw myself into being supportive for my daughter. And I think that's what makes you get out of bed in the morning.
Well, that certainly, it does sound, it sounds, I'll use the word good, because when something like that happens, you're at a complete loss.
Oh, yes, you never imagine that's going to happen, and it really is a parent's worst nightmare. You keep thinking, this isn't real. I remember saying that over and over when my mom had to tell me, and I kept saying, this isn't real. It just doesn't seem like it's real, But you get through it. God carries you through it, I think, just a minute at a time, through the worst possible situation that you could ever imagine yourself in. And you start really appreciating every moment. You're not worried about the future like you normally would be. I definitely have changed since before, and I think I'm a better person than I was, 3 years ago.
What would you say that you're more understanding? Is that it?
Yes, I'm definitely more understanding with people. I think I've got a much better insight into myself and into what's really important. And that was one thing with Mikey. He always knew what was really important in life. He was never hung up on status quos or anything the rest of society, wanted. And that is something that he taught all of us through his whole life. What's important is the people who love you, the people that you're giving love to. And that is never more, prevalent at the time of a death. you realize the people who matter, who really love you, are the ones who you're there for and are there for you. And I felt like with Mikey, after death, the things that kept happening, I really felt like he was trying to show us, have faith, to believe that there is life after death. And I felt compelled to, carry on his legacy as his mother. That's the last thing I could do for him.
Well, that seems like a good thing to do. Now, did your boy have the artistic bent? Did he get it from you? Is that it? You taught him that?
Did he get his? I missed that.
The idea of like arts and being a gunsmith. Did he get these ideas from you? Did you encourage this when he was younger?
Yes, I definitely encouraged. I encouraged anything that he was good at. It didn't matter what. I encouraged anything that he showed an aptitude for. I always encouraged with both of my kids. I never tried to force either one of them into doing something that I used to do. And so he always had complete support from me and my husband for anything that he wanted to do, and with belief that he could be a success at anything. And we really try to instill that in him and his sister, that you can do anything you believe you can do. And Mikey really had a lot of self-esteem as he got older. He really believed he was, accomplished and successful, and he knew the most important thing was he was a good person. He was sincere and compassionate and loving and kind, and that's what you can hang your hat on at the end of the day.
Yes. And did your son have his own gunsmith studio?
He didn't. He worked for a gunsmith in Oklahoma City, and it was the largest one. It was a very successful outfit. They're still in business. It was H&H Gunsmithing is what it was called, and he was one of their top gunsmiths. He was actually the only one who could do hand checkering, which is something they do by machine a lot now. But he was very neat and very skilled with woodworking, and so he was kind of the go-to gunsmith, for technical things like that. And he was thrilled to have that job. He absolutely loved every minute of it. It wasn't like work to him.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because, as you know, in ballistics, if you're working in an indoor firing range, there is a big problem with lead being given off in the ballistic, and that sometimes people could be high in lead and have health problems as a result. And if we can go back to the mercury, you might remember when you were a child reading Alice in Wonderland, and one of the characters was the Mad Hatter. And the Mad Hatter was a real group of historical figures, men who worked in the hat industry in Britain in the 1830s, 40s, and 50s, who used mercury to soften and shapen the felt hats, and they absorbed the mercury through their skin and breathed the mercury, and they became mad as hatters, an early example of industrial poisoning. And so, because I have an orientation that autism is indeed, there's a reason for it, that it's largely not genetic, is it possible that your son's occupation pushed him into ill health as a young man in his 20s?
Yes, in fact, that was a question I had right when he died. Mikey did a lot of melting down of things when he was doing the silversmithing, especially.
Yes.
He would melt, chemicals. He would melt silver, and I definitely had a question about whether that was something he was breathing. I know, like Sir Isaac Newton, there's a lot of kind of mad scientist people who they kind of wondered, was he, was Newton, did he get kind of poisoned from all of the experiments he was doing with melting down things like that? And I wondered that, and I've never gotten an answer.
And so, this might be awful to ask, was there an autopsy done to determine any
There
kind
was.
of... There was.
Yes, there was, and there was nothing found like that. And so it's, it's a question that I'll always have in my mind. Apparently, if he had levels of something like that in his bloodstream, it wasn't enough, to register at that time. But I definitely had a lot of questions about, maybe that's what triggered the delusional thinking in the first place. Maybe was it several weeks before? Because that's something that we went back, of course, as anyone would, right after his death. And when I realized he was really not in his right mind, we started talking to his friends and talking to, family members who had also spoken to him and piecing this together. And what we could see that it had actually started several weeks before it happened. He was having almost like hallucinations where he thought he'd had conversations with people that had not taken place. And so I had a lot of questions about, yes, was there something environmental that had started that pattern of irrational thinking, and it just, maybe it was not strong enough in his bloodstream at that time where it was showing up in an autopsy. But that's one of those questions that I'll never get answered.
And I realize some of these questions are tough. These are some tough questions. What was the role of the police in this investigation?
They were called. This is what was very difficult about Mikey's suicide. He shot himself in a Walmart that he had worked at. And in his suicide note, he said that he was being murdered by demons, and the demon lived in Walmart. And he basically went into Walmart thinking he was being driven into the store to kill himself. So he shot himself in a public place. He shot himself at like 7:15 in the morning, so there was not a lot of people in there, and he just went down a back aisle and pulled the trigger. But obviously the police were called for this, and they handled it very well. They tried to keep his name out of the paper until people could be notified, but that's very difficult to do when it's in a public place like that and everyone knew who Mikey was. And that was very hard for me because I felt like I had to tell my daughter and my ex-husband over the phone because they lived in Colorado still, and Mikey and I were in Oklahoma, and I did not want them to hear this on the news because it was on the news already.
Sure.
So the police actually were wonderful, very compassionate, and trying to help me. And because of the contents of the note, they didn't want to release the note at first because they didn't know how much of this was true and how much was not true. Was he murdered? Did somebody do something to him? And I had to drive down, 2.5 hours to this sheriff's office to get the suicide note that day. But they at least released a copy to me so that I could read it. And I have to say the police were as helpful as they could have possibly been under the worst possible circumstances of my life.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I some of these questions were really pretty difficult, and so then Mikey was buried, and did you seek counseling?
I did not. I did not seek counseling. I am very, very spiritual myself, and I have a very deep belief in God, and I never went through the anger and the bitterness and the denial that most people do. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Mikey has had a disorder since he was born. And so it wasn't as shocking to me as if my daughter had a breakdown like that. It wasn't as shocking to me. It's coping with that loss every day. But I know Mikey is happy now. And that's the other thing. I know he struggled his entire life, feeling like he didn't fit in, really. And he's at peace. He really is at peace now. And I wouldn't have wished him back here. And I think that's what is so difficult for most people when they lose a loved one. They wish them back here. They wish they could continue that life that they were living. I know Mikey is really happier now than he ever was. And so I didn't have that wish, like I wish I could bring him back to this earth. I miss him terribly in the physical sense, but for his own happiness, I'm happy for where he's at. And that carried me through from feeling sorry for myself,
No, sure. No. Well, you have a right to feel sorry for yourself, and I'm thank you for your answer. I think when people hear the answer, they'll think, "Oh, yes, okay, that's a strong person trying to make sense of that terrible event."
Right. It's life. It's there's nothing you can do to change it. You look back and you think, I wish I would have picked up the signals that there was something major wrong there, and I missed the signal. And once again, with my belief, I really believe that God did not let me see him. I feel like it was Mikey's time to go. And, I don't believe all of us were put on this earth to live to be 85 years old and get married and have 2 kids. I think, we'd like to think that, especially for our children. But I think some people are here just for a short time, and their life purpose is served, and they're ready to move on. And I really believe Mikey's purpose here on earth was served, and he was done and ready to move on to the next level. And that's, that's my own beliefs, and I know that helped me get through this.
Well, thank you for that. We're speaking with Diane Bucci. Diane, well, it seems like, is there any book that you've read subsequently that has helped you? Is there any group that you'd like to mention that has helped you? Has there been any support for you after this event happened?
I will say Therese Abbott with Angel Coaches, which is a spiritual group that she started. She's actually a very good psychic clairvoyant.
I'm sorry, could you mention that name once again?
Her name is Therese Abbott,
Uh-huh.
and she's online at Angel Coaches.
Okay.
And she really mentored me through a lot of my grief after Mikey was gone, trying to make sense of, what this meant to me in my life and how to process through with it. She definitely helped me, and I got a lot of comfort from the typical books that a lot of people use, like Chicken Soup for the Grieving Soul. I read a lot of other books by people who have had experiences like I did, where they felt like they were being visited by their deceased loved one. And because at the time you think, I'm crazy, I must be just looking for signs for my dead son, and you think you're the only person that this has happened to. So it was very comforting to me to read stories from people who have had similar experiences, and some of them are well known, very, very credible people. So I didn't feel like I was a Looney Tune.
So you felt that, this, what was the name of that person who helped you again?
Therese Abbott is
Therese
her
Abbott.
name.
Okay.
And it's angelcoaches.com is her website, and she is a phenomenal counselor. She is, and that's not what she calls herself, but she is. She's very insightful with the human nature and our own motivations, and she's also a good psychic. People call her to get psychic readings, but she's been a good friend to me. And we worked together, and she definitely helped me a lot through my grief process.
And was it this counselor of yours, this psychic, who offered you the insight that some people are on Earth for a shorter amount of time than others? How did you come to an insight like that?
I believe that through my own spiritual growth, since I was young, I've studied the Bible, I've studied different religions, Hinduism and reincarnation, and I've kind of come to my own beliefs about things. But she's reinforced that, through talking to her, and Mikey will pop in, sometimes when she's talking to me, and she'll say, Mikey wants you to know this. But yes, definitely, she also believes that we're not all here to live to be 100 years old. We're here to fill our life's purpose and our soul purpose. And sometimes that's up, pretty soon. And Mikey, I believe myself that he fulfilled everything that he came here to do. I think Mikey was really here to teach us more than we were to teach him, even though in life I felt like I was the teacher. I really can see the whole picture now and realize that Mikey's the one who was here teaching me acceptance and teaching me compassion and truly unconditional love. You truly love someone unconditionally and receive that love unconditionally. And so Mikey taught everyone whose lives he touched, and that's a gift that God gave to us with Mikey's life.
Well, Diane Bucci, thank you very much for having this conversation with us, and I appreciate it, and it couldn't have been easy for you, and I very much appreciate it. And please give us the name of your book and how we can buy your book.
The Return of Mikey is the book. The title obviously refers to the fact that I felt like he came back to see us after he died, and it's through the website which is called returnofmikey.com, and it's also available on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
No, Diane, it was my great pleasure to have you on today, and this was a very difficult topic, and I'd like to thank you for talking with us today on Here's to Your Health, and hopefully we can have you back on again in the future.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you so much, Josh.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, this is Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Meet Betsy. She is 29 years old and lives in Los Angeles. Recently, Betsy sent her father an email that brought tears of joy to his eyes. You see, Betsy suffers from autism, and this was the first email she had ever sent to anyone. Betsy is just one of the many students at Empower Tech, a nonprofit organization in Los Angeles that trains persons living with a broad range of physical, cognitive, and developmental disabilities how to use computers to do the things that so many of us take for granted: email, online banking, research, and entertainment. Through modern assistive technology, instructors at Empower Tech help hundreds of people just like Betsy every year. They teach them the basic skills required to function independently in 21st century society. But with new state budget cuts, all of that could change. Empower Tech needs your help if it's going to continue making a difference here in our community. Please visit www.empowertech.org. That's www.empowertech.org to make a secure, tax-deductible contribution and to learn more about this important community resource and to see for yourself what some of the amazing students and teachers do on a daily basis. Betsy and the 1.8 million people living with disabilities in Los Angeles County, thank you for caring enough to show your support.
Hi, this is Olden Polynice, retired NBA player, inviting you to join me for my show, The O-Zone, Mondays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am going to be talking about basketball, baseball, hockey, football, you name the sport, we're going to talk about it and dig deep. The O-Zone is where the truth lives. So don't forget to tune into the O-Zone with Olden Polynice, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. That's the O-Zone with Olden Polynice every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
What is Ray-Ban Radio? Ray-Ban Radio is something hot in a cool way. It's like brand new, but old school. It's about everything and almost nothing at all. Ray-Ban Radio is something fresh, but will spoil you. Simply put, Ray-Ban Radio is an entree of hilarity in a serious souffle filled with stuffing made out of what's happening right now. In other words, Ray-Ban Radio is just dessert with high calories of real sugar that isn't always sweet, but sugar, it's always real. We keep it that way. Rambunctious Ray-Ban Radio every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, only on LATalkLive.com. We're more than just talk. Woo!
Hey, I'm Kimberly Russell, aka K Russ. And I'm Julie Richmond, also known as J Rich, inviting you to join us every Thursday, 12 noon Pacific, for our all-new show, Wova Lounge. Join us as we discuss thought-provoking topics, have one-on-one interviews, and showcase women and men doing their thing. So don't forget to tune in to Wova Lounge every Thursday, 12 noon Pacific. Exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality Radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This right here is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. We are grown and sexy.
It's your girl JT. Check out my new radio show with Josh Nasser hosting with me. Hosting a real radio show, tell your friends. We talking dating, sex, and even sexy men. Every Thursday night, baby, 7 to 9 on LA Talk Live. Cause every time we freaking shine.
Hey everybody, it's Miss R&B, and I'm inviting you to come and hang with me every Thursday night at 9 p.m. PST for Perspectives Corner with Rona Rowe Bennett on America Talk Live. Hear and see interviews and live performances from some of our favorite celebrities and personalities in entertainment, sports, business, and the wellness industries. We're getting lifted and we're going deep, talking about life and empowering the champion in us all. See you there.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and in this segment, my friend Sean Sikora, astrologer to the stars, is here today. Happy to have Sean back. He was on a couple weeks ago, and that's a very nice response.
Thank you, Josh.
And so I decided to bring Sean back. Sean, the last guest talked about the death of a child, which was pretty somber, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And is there and the guest also mentioned that the son passed away at a very young age, and she thought that was not exactly okay, but that some of us are here for a long time and some of us are here for a short time. And does astrology work with that?
Yes, astrology, we try to listen and work with everybody because you really have to cover everything. And more specialized, I like to connect with people. I've been through some stuff and some experiences, not the loss of a child, thank God, but that's the toughest thing when your children pass before you. It depends on where people are at, how you want to handle it. That's about as intense as it gets. Some people, if you're open to, past lives or your reincarnation, you tell them that they'll be back soon. They might already be back, or there's different theories that, people are in different places multiple times. We're really getting into that if you get into the thing of aliens or whatever, everything's all here in just different dimensions. So they're always with you. Our loved ones are always connected. So I try to, make that, but it's, there's a whole grieving process and there's no real quick answer to that. That's a real challenge.
Right. But as an astrologer, is it possible that you can look at a person's chart and have a sense of an accident could occur now, or an illness could occur now, or this person potentially could have a shorter lifespan, or is that completely out of the...
As a rule, astrologers don't like to talk about predicting someone's death,
right,
or whatever.
Right.
But after the fact, we'll look at it and see and learn where there's problems. So you build a knowledge of possibly what can go. Actually, I've had stuff predicted in my life, and they basically said, I think the golden rule here is just to always connect and be with people you love. We're personal friends. I care about you. Always connect and live every moment in the now. And that's about all you can do. I mean, you don't know when it's going to come. I'll give you one example of actors. You can see something in their chart like, oh my God, this is horrible. I won't even say it, but it's like, you kind of look like you could die or something. But they don't die. They have a part in a movie, and the character dies. So if you do have a bad aspect, it's good to act it out. Kind of my general strategy, what I've been taught by a lot of teachers, is just be proactive. You know, if you lay back and, you know, what's going to happen, stuff will happen to you. But if you're proactive, and that's, you know, when I give people a reading, you focus. You know, hopefully they have an intention, and you focus, and you're proactive and put out energy. And I always tell people, you know, if you're working your derriere off and doing as much as you can, you know, I don't think the universe will put things in your way. I mean, there's always obstacles, but it won't stop or hurt you. And if you do get hurt, sometimes the right timing, you know, get delayed, like Nancy's sick right now. If someone's sick, you know, it gives you time to contemplate and just rest. Maybe you're doing too much, or maybe you need to think, and you know, it's opportunities. But yeah, that's the passing of a child is really difficult. But,
and may I ask, is it possible that in retrospect you can look at certain aspects and think, okay, well, this could be indicative, or is that just completely wrong? Can you look at a chart and make a determination that this person, well, if you can look at a chart and see if a person has health issues, can you see that person has health problems?
Yeah, a lot of times we talked about that, the sixth house, a lot of times indicators, the old term slings and arrows, the health, daily routines is kind of a newer way we look at it. But, you know, by your planets, depends on the time. Again, we've talked about, you know, everyone knows their sun sign, the time of year, but
Right.
the time of day with respect to the time of year, it, shows your ascendant or your rising sign, like the 9 p.m. Area on the wheel, and that's your physical body on another respect. So you can see the rulers. There's all this cross-referencing. We all have the same planets and signs, but
Well, I know it's terribly involved, and
yeah,
I'm sorry.
but there's many different indicators. Yes, I mean that's what it's all about. Is getting a feeling for it. But I've never been like to be labeled. I don't like to label people. I really like to have a dialogue, and see where they're coming from, and work with them, and not just, you know, give them a dazzle of, oh, I know this about you, and who cares?
Right.
You know, I want them to succeed.
Right.
I want to practice saying succeed.
Succeed.
I want everyone to succeed, and this is just another tool. It's like, you know, you have vitamin C, and if someone needs that, you say, oh, take some vitamin C, and even if they don't, maybe they'll take it as maintenance, but that's not your only vitamin in your store. It's just so many things. So
Right.
it's very specific when you work with people, and I really try to connect and see what will, you know, you do a lot of work, you look at their chart, and then you step back and let the person be them, and, you know, the chart grounds me and keeps me on that point. But it's really, you know, I don't have a fixed theory, or my style isn't to dictate a bunch of stuff. I really like to talk to the person and then let them bring up all the studying of their material, so
Sure.
it kind of blends, and it's their reading.
Sure.
Not me showing off and saying, well, yeah, in 2 months you're going to do this. I mean, if there's like, well, what's happening in 2 months? Like, well, I can see patterns, and a lot of people have dates, and you can.
But that's
see
not
what
showing
they're
off. Isn't
trying
that expertise? Isn't that why they hired you?
Well, maybe. I mean, I try to keep it real and not have the ego. It's like we had Don, the yoga guy, and it's about being yourself, true to yourself, of course. But when I'm doing a reading, it's the person's reading, not me giving them a reading. I really, you know.
I got you.
And sometimes I'll just have people say, point out something in your chart, and they'll pick it out whenever, you know, metaphysically they picked it.
Oh, intuitively, this is what they need to focus on.
And we'll talk about that, and they're like, yeah, that's what I needed to hear. So I try to keep it very open and flowing, and not determined, and
Sure.
you know.
Okay.
Reading Robert Pirsig, you know, it's like.
Who are you reading?
Robert Pirsig, Phil Jackson, one of his authors that he recommends of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and it talks about, you know, there's manuals and specific stuff like the math on the astrology, and then there's the artistic interpretation, and they, you know, hopefully you have a nice blend on them, and it's not just stats, and it's not just, oh, this is really nice and fine art, but, you know, trying to find a nice balance and a blend, and understanding when the ratios are different, but working however the person is.
All right. Well, thank you for that
Sure.
prologue. And so that brings us to today. So can you tell us what's going to happen in the next week here, so we can predict, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. Again, it's cross-referencing, and the inner planets that I put on the chart that are there, I put them on the inside wheel. Those are the personal planets, and they're the way things are cross-referencing right now.
Ness, are we catching these? Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ness is always on. He's
Very
great.
good.
Let's. Where's that applause for Ness?
Hey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can't see him, but he's always there. So, anyways, like I was saying, everybody's charts cross-referencing, and the transits are what we're talking about now, where the positions are right now.
Uh-huh.
Where's that moon today, Josh?
Gemini.
Yes.
Oh,
ma'am.
thank you very much.
There you go.
Okay.
Advanced
Prompting.
astrologer.
Thank you.
Josh.
Thank you very much.
So the way things are cross-referencing is like, for instance, I wanted to talk about relationships, and we keep saying the Saturn, telescope here. The Saturn is in Libra, so the cross-reference, we see Venus right here, and that represents Saturn. So again, the cross-reference, it's like whenever something's in the sign of Libra, we have to look at, we don't have to, but a lot of astrologers do, especially ancient astrologers, and look to the cross-reference or the ruler, and how it's dignified is another way to say it. So the Venus is hanging out here in Gemini, and it's going to be there a long time. It's doing a retrograde, so we talked about the Saturn makes it's reap what you sow, and you have to work really hard, and it's in that sign of relationships of Libra and trying to work things out with people. And I might as well ask it if you want me to show up. Is anybody having relationship issues or problems right now? Or of course we all do, but it's very much emphasized with Saturn and really working to improve them. And if you're not putting enough energy, like I said, you got to put in to get something out if you're not putting in enough. So if people are having problems with relationships, just try to do a little bit more, a little more communication, spend time together, love note, poetry, anything you could do. I mean, we got this media now. We can talk to just about anybody anytime. So anyways, with Venus in Gemini, again, it talks about communication. Gemini's its planet is Mercury.
Okay.
So, and we've talked about Mercury where it's ruling that Venus. So it's in Aries, it's very aggressive, and it wants to go fast. So that's kind of, we've got all these mixed feelings that it should just be fast and it should work out. And the relationship, And Aries is very good at initiating, so it's good to get started. So use that energy to get something started. But then working the Libra and the Gemini is more communicative and writing out poetry or writing a note that, even if you can't make a call or you miss a call, it's like, oh, I got to call my honey later today or something like that. And really just work on the relationship. And another challenge we're having is the Mars and Venus are at right angles, and those are again the relationship with the Libra and the Aries. They're naturally, it's like the Mars and the Venus are kind of like the guy and the girl hanging out, having a relationship. So it's really challenging now when they're at a square or a right angle, basically in the sky. It's very, very tough. The square, it's like forcing energy. You really have to do something, or it's going to break apart, or it's not going to work. So, again, it's that balance we talked about with vitamins or whatever. You got to, be aggressive and yet be laid back too. And the Mars and Virgo, the guys are kind of like, Virgo's very busy and detailed oriented, so maybe they're working too much or they're tired. And then the Gemini energy with Venus there is talking, and maybe the girls are talking a little too much, or they might be gossiping a little bit. Sometimes if we do the Four Agreements book, it's like just use your words for what you really want to say and nothing extra. That kind of basic stuff.
Good advice. Most of us can't follow it, but it's lovely
That's
advice.
Kind of
anyway,
semi-prologue, I guess. But I'm always reading my little pocket calendar, the Jim Maynard, and tomorrow I notice is Secretary's Day, the 25th of April.
Okay.
So let's hear it for our secretaries. I think we're all secretaries now. They're multitasking.
That's right.
But I wanted to give a fair warning because the Mercury's going to come up and square Pluto, which is very intense, and Mercury's communication. So you could have some very intense communication. So if anybody's planning on gifts or acknowledging their secretaries, plan it, do it now, and be very good with them and tender footsteps, and make sure to acknowledge that, because it could be a little pushy tomorrow, a little crazy. Also, Mercury is automobiles, so drive a little extra careful, because square Pluto, again, things can happen. So be proactive and aware of your driving or your communications, so things don't just happen to you laying back like, oh, Sean said whatever, and then I could say whatever, and it could blow up in your face. So be a little extra nice and a little extra open to change, and just communication, how things just go with the flow.
That's for the next 2 days.
Yeah, that's really powerful for the next couple of days. Yeah, and then the weekend coming up, it's kind of nice. We have Mars is trining Pluto, which can also be a big change, but the trine kind of makes it a little easier. So it should be kind of hopefully for most people, a nice weekend. The moon goes into Leo early in the morning Saturday.
Actually, and for those listening on iTunes at their leisure later on, can you give us the exact dates you're talking about?
Sure. This is the Secretary's Day is April 25th, and then this coming weekend is the last weekend of April. is the 28th and 9th, and that's the moon early in the morning. And these are all Pacific daylight times for people if they can adjust. We're 7 hours ahead of Greenwich now, so wherever they are in the world. So 9 in the morning, 9:10 in the morning, the moon goes into Leo this weekend. So that can be, Leo loves to party and have a good time. So this could be quite a interesting. Maybe it's like another first weekend of the summer. People will really be into it, so it should be good. And so I just want to kind of continue the following. May Day is the next Tuesday, so that would be May 1st. And there's a lot of trines too, so that's another day when people celebrate.
What are trines exactly?
Trines. Thanks for asking that. Yeah. That's a triangle or a 120 degrees when things form a triangle.
Okay.
Or at least one angle of a triangle.
All right.
If you have an isosceles, an equilateral triangle, success and triangle, it's 120 degrees. So that's kind of the most harmonious. That represents all the aspects correlate with the different elements too. So the trines are the fire. So that, again, that's like a passionate, fun, excited, go for it kind of fun energy. And
it's going to be a Leo. This week is going to be a Leo weekend. Yeah. So that means a lot of showbiz stuff happening. Is that it?
Big in the media and whatnot. Okay. And that thing I mentioned earlier with the Mercury square Pluto. Again, that our communications and the Pluto can be, basic word is change, but it can be violent. And of course, in LA, we're seeing. Meta world peace kind of got a little violent, but hopefully that works out, or we all learn from that, or.
Sure.
Hopefully, but that's the kind of thing it can, it's like 1 second you're celebrating and there's so much energy, it elevates. So again, the forewarned is forearmed. It's like, keep that in mind, people, and don't go.
Isn't this the weekend coming up of the LA riots of 20 years ago?
Is that?
Which was a very big deal in Los Angeles 20 years ago. There was a lot of destruction and death. I think possibly maybe 50 people were killed. So it's really quite a remarkably bad event for LA.
Yeah, I was actually, has it been that long? I was actually working in Hollywood up in a 6th story of a building, and I could, in an old building with a fire escape, and we a guy at the end of the building was seeing the plumes of smoke coming, and it was not good. But these things of expression, I thought we weren't going to get into it, but we can always get into a longer occurring aspect. We've been kind of positioning with the we had trouble with the stock market and the economy, and all this is the Pluto and Uranus square, which is a lot of, I've talked about, I have a couple clips up on my YouTube of doing our business, initiating, starting things, genius, creativity. Like Ness looked up 84 years ago, Uranus was in the Aries. Aries goes forward, lots of chutzpah, just moves along, that kind of energy. And Uranus is inventive and creative. So a lot of people are working on creating things and inventing. And it's squaring that Pluto and Capricorn, which is change in business. So of course we're all, how simple is that? We're all obviously learning as much about business and changing and reinventing ourselves and making inventions. And like that food product we had on earlier, just the Bikram. It's just we're all trying to advance and be creative, and it is affecting our business. And whether you're doing your own thing, go for it. I mean, there's a lot of change going on. It's definitely a time to be inventive and to you're harmonious with the universe, and there is definitely profits and achievements to be made. And if you are working for somebody, still look for the new, and you can have some volatile bosses, but try to work it out. Step back and be the bigger person, and try to get everything to have a flow to it, but bring your best game and be open and inventive to new ideas and new situations.
Certainly sounds like good advice. Sean, by the way,
Yes.
why don't you give us your email, your contact information, so we just have that.
I got a simple one. It's astrology1234.com.
That's very good. Okay, so we're talking to Sean Sikora, Astrologer to the Stars. He's our host, he's our guest on this section of Here's to Your Health. And we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back with Sean after these important messages.
Hi, this is Alan Azoulay for New Foundation Real Estate, the official and proud sponsor of Real Estate Solutions Live. Heard every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific on LA Talk Live. The experienced professionals at New Foundation are there to assist you with all of your real estate needs. New Foundation has the real estate answers you are looking for. So call us now at 888-585-2416. That's 888-585-2416. Or visit us on the web at newfoundationre.com. A California licensed real estate broker, 01897916.
Hey, are you spending your time or are you wasting your time? Well, kill some time hanging out with Michael Collier, Brooks Jackson, and the whole crew at the Michael Collier Morning Show. I Get Up Late. That's every Tuesday, 3 until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you don't know what that is, you better get on the internet and look it up. And while you're there, go to latalklive.com and check me out.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane, and our guest is Sean Sikora, astrologer to the stars. And we just had a little break, and we were talking. So you mentioned that there's an aspect right now that makes communication good.
For most people, yes. You could see if you go to my website, astrology1234.com.
What's that website
again? Astrology1234.com.
Thank you very much. Yes.
On the home page, there's a little off to the left, I believe there's a little calendar, and it shows the positions of the planets currently.
Yes.
So you can look that up, and the most people know the moon glyph, our beautiful crescent
moon,
here.
Yes. Yeah.
So it'll show on there the moon glyph, and it'll say it'll have some numbers of degrees it's at, and it'll show the sign it's at, which is Gemini here. And I got to put up a key list, but for a legend. But basically, actually, that's on my Facebook page, Sean's Astrology, and you can link on there from the link from the webpage.
Sean'sAstrology.com?
Yeah. No, that's on the webpage. That's my fan page. But I have a picture of a legend up there. So basically, Gemini is a good communication sign.
Yes.
It's known as, it's Mercury. Mercury's one of the great communicators. If you do your, the guy with the little wings on his feet,
Mercury, yes.
He brings the flowers. No, that's another guy. But anyways, it's always about moving around in the general neighborhood and the people around you, close, siblings, and just communication in general. And when the moon's in Gemini, like you're saying that you felt the shows are going pretty good, we got a kind of a helper. Again, it's not influencing it. It's just a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way I like to look at astrology is you look in the pond, you see yourself. It's not exactly you, but there are a reflection in the mirror. You get a kind of feeling. So with the moon now it's what we know and love and desire in our own chart, but it also applies to the public and connects with everyone. And this country is a Cancer country, and the sun sign of Cancer is you have to look to the moon and see how it's cross-referencing. So the moon has a lot to do with how our country feels. So we're really tied in.
Wait, you're talking United States of America?
The U.S. chart. Yeah.
And how is this chart determined? How would it?
That's a debate at the time, but it was still, no matter what, it was still 4th of July was still Sun in Cancer.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. It has to do with the 4th. So the 4th of July
yeah,
is
signing
the
the
birthday
declaration.
of the country.
Yeah, the people do other charts too. Anyways, I don't want to get all into that,
okay.
But that's one chart we know. We celebrate the 4th of July, or the country's birth. That's one way you can learn about astrology in countries, because you're like, why is this country? Maybe we'll get in North Korea one time or something. I don't know. I was starting to look at their chart, and I'm like, oh boy.
Huh.
But anyways, the moon is in Gemini. So when the moon's in Gemini, generally speaking, for everybody, it's really easy to communicate. It's a good time to catch up with your siblings, or just have light chat with people and relax and have a good time, or do just little trips, errands, and whatnot. Now, there's lots of things going. That's very general. Of course, like I talked about the last segment, we have Mercury square Pluto tomorrow,
right,
April 25th on Secretary's Day. So be extra nice to people, and those little trips. And on this particular situation, you might want to take a break and not do the trip, depending on how you're feeling. And I don't want to tell people what not to do, but just go by your own instincts. But
sure.
But anyways, generally speaking, Moon in Gemini. Here, it sounds like I have Moon in Gemini. I'm just talking and talking. So when you watch around, it's fun. You watch where the moon is, and then you go out, and it's like, wow, everyone's really chatty. Or the Gemini or the twins, young kids, or you'll see people with kind of the sugar bowl haircuts. They'll have like neat cut hair, and it's just a feeling, and it's really amusing and funny and interesting too. And it kind of gives you an idea what's happening in the energy. Like when the moon's in Aries, sometimes it's like a lot of people, women will be wearing red, and they're very they'll be slim and athletic and really action oriented. And then moon in Taurus, very voluptuous, beautiful, and they'll be dressed up more. Taurus likes nice things, that kind of thing. So you get a feeling of all the just the feeling of that moon. Again,
that's amusing.
Yeah, that's one factor, but that's kind of a nice general thing. And again, that's something you can just look on the website and see where that moon is, or find other locations. We have links and stuff, and you just start to pick this stuff up, and you're like, oh boy, everybody was in a rush today. Oh, the moon was in Aries. Of course they were in a rush,
Okay, that's all. That seems like it's just good to know.
Yeah. Again, it's a tool. It's not, it's not the answer to everything, but it's, I hope to give as many answers as possible. But it's, again, we all learn and use it on whatever level we do. I mean, some of us just do sun sign astrology. Some of us do more. Some of us don't want to deal with it. But it's always nice to have an edge and get a general feeling what's going on.
Okay, now you mentioned that at this time, because of the signs, because of the planets, that there's a strain in relationships, that potential strain in relationships. Is that it? Yeah,
the Saturns always work really hard. You reap what you sow. You don't feel good enough about yourself. Saturn represents Capricorns. A lot of times they don't feel well. I always love to use, most people know Howard Stern, and the thing of, I heard him talk about his dad was hard on him.
Yes.
So he's like, I'll show you, and he worked really hard, and look what he's achieved. He didn't sit back. So the Saturn, the planet that rules working hard in Capricorn, that kind of mentality of not being good enough, it's in relationships. So that's coming out with a lot of people's relationships now. It's like, this isn't working, or this isn't good enough, or I don't feel good enough in this relationship. So instead of sitting back and going, oh, this sucks, it's like, what can I do to improve it? So we go back a layer, and we see that it's ruled by, our cross-reference, back reference to the Venus, because the sign of Libra is ruled by Venus.
Okay.
Again, on this legend here. Yeah. And I'll make a note. I'll post some more stuff if people want to get into that. But so you see it's in Gemini now. So it is about communicating, but Gemini is kind of keeping it light. Gemini, the polarity is Sagittarius, and that's philosophical and college and doctorates and up on the soapbox and the preachers and that kind of stuff, and foreign intellect and looking at things differently. The Gemini is more local, and how it is in the hood, and all your buddies and families and siblings, how you talk to them. It's a little more laissez-faire and kick back, and you keep it light. Geminis always give you a little smile or a little pat on the back, and just it's okay, Josh.
Okay, good.
That kind of energy.
Okay, it's
so it's
Gemini
like
energy.
It's like we have intense relationship stuff. Try just having a little small talk with people. Whatever works with them. You don't want to be placating or condescending, but just keep it light and see how that works.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that sounds like good advice, really.
Yeah.
And that's good advice for today and tomorrow, in general.
Yeah, that's actually Saturn's going to be in there. We have till October as far as really working on relationships. It is challenging though. Like I said earlier, the Venus is squaring the Mars, the other relationship planet in Virgo, and they're both ruled by Mercury. Mercury. So without getting too convoluted, basically, there's a lot of thinking in our heads about these relationships.
Right.
And the Virgo Mercury energy is like people are working really hard and pushing it, and they're tired. Virgo does too much, and they're all mundane things and little tasks and minutia. So part of us, and that's the Mars. So the Yang kind of person in a relationship, it's just pushing it, and they're probably tired, and they're multitasking. So give them a little slack and a little, it's like, okay, I see what you're going through, and maybe that small talk is like, how is your day at work? really that's a basic relationship thing, and let them open up. And even if they're quiet, just give them a pause and give them some time. And the other flip is the Venus is the yin of the more feminine type energy. Is let them talk. So if you're the masculine, you're like, oh, I'm just working, I can't listen to you. Just take a moment, rest, and things come to you when you do rest. Even no matter how productive and pushing it in our society, it's like sometimes take a break, and you might get a clue, or your relationship will build as well. Just listen, and the more yin person in the relationship, or it could flip too. But there's going to be one person that's like working, one person just wants to talk. So keep it light and let again, when you're talking, whatever position you're feeling that energy, just keep it light and just have a nice conversation. And what's on TV, or what are we doing tomorrow, or
okay.
How about a walk in the park?
That sounds like good advice. Sounds good, like good advice. Sure.
Thanks. So that's, again, this is common advice, but astrology, I'm specifically tying into the energies. That's what people, because they'll say, oh, you could say that to anybody anytime. I sure could, but I'm focusing and using this as a grounding tool of just being harmonious to how, the sky's looking in the mirror. I look up in the mirror. How do I look? This is just the energy giving me an idea of, it's time to keep it light and understand that we're working too hard, and just try to make light of it. Just keep it easy.
And we have a couple minutes left. And for the weekend, once again, what's coming up for the weekend?
Well, I was actually, a weekend. I was going into next week. We have a Mercury sextile Venus. That's the Thursday, the 3rd of May. And what that means is you have to work at it, but those two planets are going to connect. So again, the Mercury is the communication planet. It's in Aries. It's pretty aggressive, and the Venus is in Gemini. So it's kind of just laying back and chit-chatting, but there's a nice aspect. So that Thursday, that might be the nice time to talk about planning the following weekend on the 5th and 6th. So that's a way the energy could play out too. It's like that's Thursday. Use it Thursday as like set up the date, or if you have something heavy to talk about, that actually could be a good time too, because it'll probably play a little nicer than usual. But you gotta the sextile is 60 degrees. You gotta kind of plan ahead and do a little work. Don't just do it spontaneously. Have a little preset focus or mantra or intent. I always use the word intention. Focus on how you want it to come out, and that's part of metaphysics. How do you want it to be? Great athletes, they picture themselves. Kobe sees that basket before he even makes it. The visual image.
Right.
Intention. Yes. However you want to call it. It's like, how do you want it?
All right. Yeah. Well, Sharon Sakura, Astrologer to the Stars, I would like to thank you for doing our segment today, which I'd like to call In the Present Position of the Planets with Sharon Sakura. And you're listening to Josh Lane, and this is Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Ness.
For more information about the guests and sponsors of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, please call us at 818-707-0005.